Thanks, Bill. Thanks, Peter, for your presentations. I'm really grateful to have a chance to follow up in this session and share a little bit about this alumni project. So I'm a fifth-year assistant professor here at James Madison University in Harrisonburg, Virginia. And this is a project that's become a highlight of my semester, both for me and for my students. And it's something that I honestly think anyone in this session could easily and effectively implement in your own classes if it's something that you're interested in. And I make that statement based on my own experience. When I was here in my first year in 2016 at JMU, I got to meet one of our retired professors, Brooks Marshall, who came into my office one day. We talked a little bit. We really hit it off pretty good. And he must have sensed that I was a pretty young, malleable assistant professor, because before I knew it, he had talked me into adopting this alumni project thing that he used to do before he retired. So at first I was a little hesitant about it. I wasn't super excited to be starting up a new project. I was, I had my research agenda and everything. I was like, this is just going to get in the way of that. I'm going to have to come up with all these assignment sheets, find alumni to participate. Seems like a lot of work. Well, I'm really glad that I actually did it, because it's really become a fun project, and it's kind of been self-sustaining. It's run itself once I got it started up. So what I like to do is just share a little bit more about this project. My goals for this presentation are just to share, how the project is structured, and I'll share some of the best practices that I've developed over 4 years of using this project in my classes. Then I'll talk a little bit about, why I think it's worth using this in the classroom. And then finally, I'm going to share some empirical evidence from a research study that I've been working on what the learning outcomes are based on some survey evidence with students. So what is the project itself all about? Well, the project is based on a big part of my teaching philosophy, which is that, it's based on this quote here by Herbert Spencer, a British philosopher, that the great aim of education is not knowledge, but action. And the two goals of this assignment are, to help students to, first of all, observe how their class concepts that we're talking about in class can be applied in practice. They learn that from the alumni who are actually applying those concepts in practice on a day-to-day basis. And then secondly, the second goal of this project is to have students explore careers in finance and investments by actually interviewing alumni in different fields. So here are some pictures of JMU alumni who have participated in this class. And anyone who's at an academic institution, you all have alumni at your institution as well. Alumni are such a great resource for student learning. Alumni have a really privileged place to have a good impact on students. So alumni are relatable to students. They sat in the same classrooms, took classes from the same professors in many cases, went to the same college restaurants and football games and all that stuff. They have a lot in common with the students. And the students really look up to the alumni, being able to relate to them and then see where they work now in all sorts of great jobs. So we have alumni in our project here at JMU who have gone on to work in consulting, investment banking, commercial banking, real estate, insurance, private equity, hedge funds, all over the place. And the greatest thing about having alumni share their experience is that I can tell the class a million times that, there's an important concept like mean variance theory. I can say, hey, listen, you really want to learn about mean variance theory. It's going to come in handy one day. And no matter how many times I say that, they just don't really believe me. But when they hear it from the mouth of someone who's actually a portfolio manager, they get super excited about it, and it really motivates them to hit the books and study a little bit harder once we cover those topics in class. So how does the project itself actually work? It's a really simple structure. And I divide the class up into groups of 3 to 4 students, and for each group I'll assign one finance alum, and the students will set up 4 phone calls with the alum that was assigned to their group. So those phone calls, I give them some kind of suggested conversation starters. So it's kind of like a semi-formal or semi-structured interview format. And the questions are career and application oriented. So the career oriented questions might be like, what's your story? How did you choose JMU? What did you do after you graduated? How did you get to where you are today? What are your favorite things about your job? And what are your least favorite things about your job? What skills are needed to excel in your chosen career? And then the application-oriented questions are more like, well, take a look at our principles of investment syllabus and pick 1 or 2 topics that you actually use in your daily work. So far, every alum has been able to pick at least 1 or 2 topics from our syllabus that they use in their daily application, which is really great. And then the alumni get to share their experience using those things that it's something that I as the professor wouldn't be able to explain how these concepts are used in all these different fields. So that has been a huge value add to our class when we actually get to come in and talk about these topics in the classroom. So as far as deliverables go, the students write 1 group paper, and then they share what they learned with the rest of the class through a brief 5-minute presentation. So that presentation is a great opportunity for them both to learn from other groups on the different career fields that the other groups studied, and then also to share, if they invested or interviewed an investment banker, they get to share what investment banking is all about. It could pique someone in the class's interest in pursuing that career. The students also write a reflection paper, an individual reflection paper, where they think a little bit harder about what are my interests, what are my skills, and what are some careers that fit those skills and interests. And then, of course, they fill out some peer and alumni feedback forms at the end of the semester. All in all, it's a pretty easy project to grade as an instructor. I make it a small part of my overall principles of investments course grade. It's usually only 3 to 5% of their final grade at the end of the semester. Most everyone has enough intrinsic motivation to do a good job on this work, because it's just something that everyone should be interested in to kind of discover what career opportunities are out there and what they might want to do after graduation. So let me share some of the best practices that I've kind of discovered over the last 4 years of using this project in class. First of all, the most important ingredient is getting a good network of alumni participants and maintaining enthusiasm among those alumni. So I was lucky enough to adopt this from Brooks Marshall, our professor emeritus. He started me out with an initial cohort of 10 or 12 alumni for my first semester doing this. From there, those alumni actually enjoyed the project so much that they started referring their friends and other alumni they knew to participate in the project. Now, 4 years later, I'm up to like 60 or 70 alumni in our database. Each semester, right before the semester starts, I send out an email blast and just say, hey, we need 15 alumni this semester. Who's interested in participating? And within a day or two, I've filled up all my slots, no problem. Anytime I meet alumni at like football tailgates or wherever it may be, that's a good opportunity to share about the project. And I've also had some great help from College of Business staff and other faculty referring former students and alumni who they know who would be a good fit to mentor students through this project. So I've gotten a lot of great help from people in the college in building up that alumni database to participate in this project. Another best practice that I found is it's really helpful to coach students on their interactions with alumni. So just sharing things like, hey, you should really follow up with a thank you note. And while you're talking, maybe ask good open-ended questions and ask follow-up questions. Just see where the conversation goes. Maybe share a little bit about yourself so the alum knows where you're coming from. Just little things like that. And I have some best practices written up that I share with both the alumni and the students. That if anyone here is interested in implementing this in your class, I'd be happy to share those with anyone as well. I found a couple of years ago that video conferencing works a lot better than phone calls for connecting students and alumni. I guess one of the silver linings of COVID is that we're all pros with video conferencing now. So this has not been an issue at all for students, the last couple of semesters. The final best practice that has been really rewarding for alumni is to invite them into the in-class presentations. We had an alum come back to campus for the first time after 20 years, a year or two ago before the pandemic, sat in an in-person presentation about his career. And he said it was just such a cool, surreal experience to sit in the classroom he hasn't been in for 20 years and to hear students talking about what they learned from their conversations with him. So those are some of the best practices. Let's see. Before I go any further, are there any questions that I can answer about the structure of the project itself? I'm going to try to open up the chat box here and make sure I can see anything. So if y'all have any questions on the structure of the project, how it works, feel free to leave those in the chat box. I'll continue on with the presentation. Just talked a little bit about what the project is, how it's structured. Let me go ahead and dive into some of the reasons, why I found it worthwhile to assign this in my class. So again, this is a Principles of Investments class, Fin 371 for juniors and seniors. I honestly think this could work in a number of different finance classes, undergrad and graduate, could work in non-finance classes, really anywhere across the university where students could benefit from speaking with alumni. But three reasons why I've been assigning it. First of all, the AACSB Standard 13 for University or College of Business accreditations, it states that curricula should facilitate student academic and professional engagement appropriate to the degree program and learning goals. So one basis of judgment for that includes, providing experiential learning opportunities to business students like this that, quote, allow them to engage with faculty and active business leaders. So this is an easy way to set up those, interactions between students and business leaders. Another basis in the AACSB Standard 13 for judgment is that students are able to connect their academic and professional experiences in meaningful ways consistent with the degree program type and learning goals. So again, this is another way to accomplish that accreditation goal. Another thing about this project is that the way that the deliverables are structured, it helps walk students through, the three modes of experiential learning from Kolb's experiential learning theory. So concrete experience, reflective observation, abstract conceptualization, and active experimentation. So between interviewing the alumni, sharing things with their class in the presentation, writing the reflection paper, through that whole process, they hit, all four of those modes of learning. And then finally, I've had a chance to write a research study based on some survey data from students who have participated in the alumni project that speaks to some of those learning outcomes. So this is with Brooks Marshall and another co-author here at JMU, Bill Ritchie. It's been under review. This paper was recently accepted with minor revisions at the Journal of Education for Business. And I want to share some of the main takeaways from that here. So this survey, it's based on a survey of students from two semesters, so fall 2018 and spring 2019. There were 93 student responses, and we asked the students 26 questions to rank, do you strongly agree, somewhat agree, on that scale, that Likert 7-point Likert scale, to the statement. We took that survey data and did some univariate and factor analysis. So I'm going to share the four main themes that we found from that data. So the end results were that there were four main benefits that students reported having participated in the alumni project. So benefit number one, or learning outcome number one, is that students reported a growth in interview skills. So some of the survey questions that speak to that would be, if I needed to conduct an interview of a financial professional in the future, this experience helped me feel more confident in my ability to do so on my own. Students ranked that as a 6 out of 7. I guess that would be, they pretty strongly agree with that statement. This experience improved my comfort level for interacting with business professionals in the future, 5.99 out of 7. Overall, the alumni project helped me feel more prepared to interview for positions in my chosen field of work, 5.92 out of 7. And then over the course of the 4 interviews, my comfort level in interacting with the interviewee, the finance professional increased. They ranked that a 6.22 out of 7. So overall, students are feeling more comfortable interviewing people. These are skills that could help them with interviewing for an internship or a full-time job. A second takeaway for the project is that, or learning outcome, is that it helps students with career discernment. So some statements in the survey that spoke to that would be: the alumni project experience helped me to identify my professional interests as well as their individual professional strengths. And the project also helps students to better understand how their individual, strengths fit into a given career. So as an instructor, I found students don't always know what all their career options are their junior, senior year of college. They're just looking for a job wherever it may be. It sounds like, or from the survey and speaking with students, this project has helped them really figure out what would be a good fit for them, and not just a job that will pay them some money after they graduate. A third learning outcome is that the projects help students with gaining a better understanding of how to apply coursework in practice. So some statements that speak to that would be, because of the alumni project, I'm more aware of how textbook material applies in the workplace. And I've really seen this when we talk about mean variance optimization, and the students have talked to someone who uses that. They're really a lot more motivated to study. They really understand why it's an important concept. An interesting one is the second statement: being assigned to a JMU alumnus for my program of study helped me to identify important connections between coursework and the professional world. So it seems that and then the third one, it was especially important to have had the opportunity to be paired with an alumnus from my program of study versus someone who does not share the same alma mater as me. So I think that just speaks to, alumni and students already have that personal connection, having shared the same alma mater, gone to the same football games, that sort of thing. Finally, the factor analysis revealed that students report an overall increase in learning retention. So some statements that speak to that would be: the concepts I learned from the alumni project are more memorable to me than concepts learned from traditional forms of classroom learning, such as lectures and written assignments. As the person who's assigning the lectures and written assignments, that one kind of hurt a little bit, but if the project is helping them out, I'm really glad for them. The second statement here is: I am more likely to retain concepts I learned from the alumni project than from traditional forms of classroom learning, such as lectures and written assignments. So overall, it seems that the alumni project is not just helping them learn while they're doing the project, but it's, again, motivating them to learn the rest of the material that we cover in class. So just to summarize, these are the 4 main learning outcomes that the survey analysis revealed: growth in interview skills, improved career discernment, better understanding of how coursework can be applied in practice, and 4th, overall increase in learning retention. So if this is something that you'd be interested in implementing in your own course, I'd be more than happy to share like my course assignment, or like the assignment sheet, my grading rubrics, best practices, that sort of thing. Some questions that I'd encourage you to consider would be, what could your students benefit from in interacting with alumni? Regardless of what your class is, I think this could be used in a number of different undergrad and graduate classes. You might want to think a little bit about, what types of conversation or interview questions you would encourage students to ask the alumni during their phone calls or phone or video calls. It could be highly technical, or it could just be, more general in nature, like, what do you like about your job? Third, think a little bit about the alumni network. That's the key ingredient to this project. What steps would you need to take to establish a network of alumni participants? And importantly, who could you contact for help? So we have, I've gotten a lot of help from other faculty in my department chair, and also, we have someone on staff whose job is to keep up alumni engagement. She's been extremely helpful in connecting me with alumni. I bet everyone here has somebody at or a number of people at your college who could help to establish that network. And again, I think you'll find once you establish like the core group of alumni, it'll just keep growing and growing and growing, and it won't be an issue to find alumni, after a few semesters of doing this. Those are some questions that you could consider. I'd like to take any questions that you all might have on the project, on the benefits of it, learning outcomes, whatever else you may have. So I guess you can put them into the chat box, or feel free to just speak up through the Zoom call, and be happy to answer any questions you have.
And if anybody wants more information, there's his email address. And you might also please put that in the chat box too, your email address.
Sure.
How much, I have one question. How much of this time, of your time, does this take? Like, maybe initially, I know it would take more time, but let's say the second semester, so if one of us wanted to implement this in a class, setting it all up, coordinating, how much of your time?
So the biggest time commitment is at the beginning of the semester. At this point, I'd say it's no more than 2 or 3 hours at the beginning of the semester total, just reviewing the assignment sheets, making sure the rubrics and everything are consistent and posted to the Canvas site, and then sending out the survey. And I'm starting to automate that, so it'll be a little bit quicker next semester. But I have the database of alumni, 60 or 70 people. I send out an email blast just telling them, so great that you participated in this in the past, or you indicated an interest in participating. We need 15 people this semester. If you're interested, please fill out this survey, and I'll be following up with you within the next week or so to participate. So it's relatively quick now. I honestly, I wouldn't say I spend too much more time on this than I would on any other like in-class group project. Getting it started at the beginning, that does take a little bit more time. But again, if you lean on people who you know and can help you build up that initial network, that can be really beneficial.
Thank you. Okay, do we have any other questions? I'm looking at the chat box.
Earl, I have one, Betty, if you don't mind.
Oh, go ahead. Yes, please.
Earl, when you talked about the staff helping you out, did you use the LinkedIn alumni informational interview process there through the school business? I know it's not listed in your paper, and there's also a list of questions that are recommended to students. Do you tell your students to go look at those questions?
Yeah, great question. So the College of Business just set up a LinkedIn group for alumni to connect with students. And I think that will be a great way to advertise this alumni project. And it would be a great way to get volunteers for the alumni project. So far, it's been mostly based on referrals from other faculty. And actually, even I should mention too, I've been here for, this is my 5th year at JMU. I've had students who were seniors my first year in 2016, who have enough experience now to actually participate as alumni. And that's been a really rewarding thing, just to tell students while they're in the classroom, if you're interested in serving as an alumni, like that could be you one day. And that gives them a little bit of motivation to imagine what their potential is and where they could be one day, coming back and sharing their experiences with future students. So I guess short answer, I think the alumni LinkedIn group would be a great way to recruit alumni. And then as far as the questions go, I just want to share some of these questions on the screen. These are some of the required questions. I give the students an assignment sheet that include these required questions. And yes, I do tell students, like during your phone calls or video calls with the alum, they should be natural conversations where you're going back and forth and asking follow-up questions, but you have to at least hit these 5 major questions here. So a little bit about the biography of the alum, a little bit about the alum's job description, a little bit about career fit, and a little bit about how the alum applies course material in practice. So students absolutely have to cover those, and then they report back in their group paper and their group presentation.
you know, but you're not referring the students to the list of questions. And I believe there was a Forbes article a while back that had like 30 questions that were recommended. I was just wondering how much background you were advising the students to look into or guidance on asking these questions. I realize you provided these, but
I'm not sure I know which Forbes article you're talking about. Is it an article on just like suggested informational interview questions?
yes, it is. I'll try to find the site. I thought I could find it, but I can't find it right now.
Okay, well that would be something I'd definitely be interested in taking a closer look at, and maybe could fine tune some of these questions. So I'll add, you know, each semester I look at these questions and try to, you know, see how could I make this a little bit better. I got feedback from alumni, like,
Okay.
to make the phone calls work a little bit more smoothly. And yeah, thanks for that input.
Well, thank you. Sounds good. Thank you.